This week, we will be discussing how advisors should charge for workplace pensions advice. As more and more companies reach their staging date for auto-enrolment, employers are coming to advisors for help. But how should advisors charge for this service? Here with me now is Les Conway, Director of Essentially Financial. But before we speak to Les, let's have a look at what other advisors have to say about charging employers for auto-enrolment advice.
What I have found is that speaking to a lot of companies, you have to identify who you do want to actually take on board in the first place. You know, if a company's not showing any great engagement with wanting to get involved in auto-enrolment and they've come late to the game, you know, if it's within 6 months of staging date, you maybe don't actually want to get involved with them because the time frames involved are quite tight.
I think in an ideal world, we would like to engage with employers sort of 12 months out from their staging date. In reality, we're seeing more and more employers 2 or 3 months prior to staging date because it's been filed, it's been put aside, and then the reality hits that something needs to be done. Absolutely, I think that's one of the key areas for us. I think when we decided to go into automatic enrolment, it was key for us to try and engage with individual employees because I think that's where we're going to see some more value, really, rather than the value attached to setting up the scheme itself.
The way we try to deal with that, and again, the experience I've had is that the initial documentation that we send out to the employees regarding what's happening, you know, the implementation process we're going to go through, that is the catalyst for quite a lot of questions starting. And the way we do that is we try and deal with that initially on an email basis. It allows you to screen, deal with it fairly quickly if you have to deal with it fairly quickly, and it also allows you to identify who actually might be worth seeing face to face.
So Les, how much do you charge employers for auto-enrolment advice?
We break the task down to 3 parts. We have an initial research and advice aspect for which we charge £750. We then have an implementation stage where we charge £1,250 for a scheme up to 5 members and £150 for each member thereafter, and then an ongoing monthly charge of £175 a month.
How will the pensions charge cap impact how advisors or providers charge for setting up schemes?
I'm not sure that it would affect advisors that much to any great degree because advisors will either be in this space or they won't. I think that's quite clear. Providers I do have a bit of an issue with because the conventional insurance-based schemes, the conventional insurance companies, are naturally going to look at things from a commercial perspective. They already are. They're continuing to do so, and that's going to get accentuated further. Trust-based schemes, it's a fundamentally different process. So to my mind, I'd rather be in a situation where I'm recommending a trust-based scheme with that degree of assurity than a conventional insurance company.
Do you charge anything for employee advice or support?
We don't specifically, but with respect to the ongoing charge that we apply, which of course, like everything, is levied to the employer, if that's a facility they want to offer, then by all means. Of course, if there's a situation where the employee requires something specific, then that's a private relationship that they would then have with us as the advising firm.
Do you think advisors should be thinking about providing advice to employees?
Potentially, it depends on their model and where they want to pitch themselves. I think it's horses for courses because you can get inundated with an awful lot of work for not a great reward. Not sure on that one. I think the jury's slightly out.
So you don't think it would be profitable?
I'm not sure. It depends on a number of factors, and I think we're far too early in the cycle to establish that.
Sure. What factors need to be considered when charging for workplace pensions advice?
I think principally the time element. Number one, of course, naturally, and secondly, if there's in conjunction with that a requirement for from the employer's perspective to have reasonable face-to-face contact with the workforce in terms of perhaps presentations, seminars, etc., then that's going to have a requirement too in terms of assessing the time and then obviously the cost.
Les, thank you so much for coming in to talk about how to charge for workplace pensions advice. You can download the crib sheet for this week's edition at citywire.co.uk/advisor know-how or bnymellonam.co.uk/advisor know-how, or you can find the link and add your views at Advisor Know-how on Twitter.